I'm Leena Rao with TechCrunch. We're here with David Sachs, founder and CEO of Yammer, now corporate vice president of Yammer, now that you guys are with Microsoft.
Right.
Big news
Right.
from the summer. I was on maternity leave, so unfortunately I missed it. But
Right.
so post acquisition, how are things going?
Right.
Is it sort of the same as ever? Are you a startup within Yammer in
Within
terms
Microsoft?
of? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well,
within
I don't know if
Microsoft.
we're a startup within Microsoft. We were already getting to the point where I think Yammer had over 400 employees. We're getting sort of, but we are we're a group or unit within the Microsoft Office division, and we're continuing to maintain Yammer as a standalone product. We're continuing to innovate very quickly. We just a few weeks ago did our summer release, which I think was the biggest and best release we've ever done. We've got our fall release coming up in a couple of months. So we're continuing to iterate very, very quickly on Yammer. At the same time, we're looking for opportunities to integrate Yammer with other Microsoft products, especially in the Office division, like I mentioned, like Office 365, SharePoint, and there'll be other ones down the road.
So I want to ask you. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and you've had pretty extensive Silicon Valley experience. PayPal among those. There's a lot of innovation happening in the payment space. You know a lot about it because you started it.
Right.
Where do you sort of see the payment space going? PayPal now is moving into in-store retail experiences. Do you see that payments experience as being a one winner takes all situation, or do you see them? Do you see Google having their in-store payments experience or their mobile wallet? Do you see PayPal having their wallet, and then we all have these different services?
Well, I think the end state is very clear, which is you're not going to be carrying around a wallet full of cash and credit cards. You've got this device, your phone, it's your portable computer. It's got pretty much your whole identity in there, and somehow it's going to be the way that you pay. And so that, I think, is the end state. I think that's pretty clear. Everyone can kind of see that. The question is, how long is it going to take, and exactly who the winners will be, and how will that transition occur? And so there's a bunch of different ideas that are kind of happening, and they're all pretty interesting. So it is a very interesting time in payments again. I think after PayPal, we went through probably like 8-year period where just nothing was happening, and now it seems because of mobile, because of the fact that you can now bring the internet wherever you go, because it's handheld, and it's basically the size of your wallet. It's completely opened up the payments game again.
Do you think PayPal can be the leader in that next iteration of payments? Especially on the mobile phone. I mean, they're trying, among others, Square, Google. There's a bunch of startups in the space. Do you think that PayPal can be the leader?
I think it's still pretty wide open. So they've got over 100 million accounts. So the question for PayPal is just can they still innovate? Because honestly, it's been a while since PayPal did something really new. But they have a new president now who himself is
David
a former...
Marcus,
who I don't really know him, but I know he's a former entrepreneur, and some of the things he said lately about admitting where PayPal's made mistakes and trying to bring more innovation to the company all sound very positive. I think Square is obviously doing amazing things. I think that obviously the smartphone operating systems and or hardware providers can play in this world, depending on how it shakes out. So Apple could be a player, Microsoft could be a player, Google could be a player. So it's still pretty wide open.
Pretty wide open.
Yeah.
That brings me to another point, and this relates to Yammer within Microsoft. Can, just like PayPal is now up against these startups, PayPal's a part of eBay, a public company. Can there be the same kind of innovation in a public company, such a like a big incumbent, as there is happening in startups that are a little bit more bootstrapped, that are more traditionally tend to be a little bit more forward thinking?
Right. So it's true that startups tend to be nimbler than large companies. The flip side of it is large companies have existing assets that allow them to extend into new markets. They have existing distribution scale, and they've got a lot more resources. So it's not like, I mean, I'm not someone who believes that the startup's always going to win. It really kind of depends on the market landscape and, do the assets and resources that sort of the incumbents have allow them to very easily extend into that other area. So, in my interview with Arrington, I mentioned the TV industry. We all know it's going to be disrupted, but I actually don't think a startup's going to win that, because I just think that the assets and resources that companies have, like Microsoft with Xbox and Apple with its products, or Google with its products, or Amazon, it just feels like one of those companies is, or multiple of those companies are going to be leading the disruption in the TV industry. So now payments, I think it's not like that. I think it's more wide open than that. But I think there are good reasons why startups win, but there's also reasons you can't ignore why incumbents sometimes win as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, Microsoft, in terms of the social enterprise, there hasn't been a lot that they've done in terms of the social enterprise. Yammer is definitely bringing that to the company. Where do you sort of see the social enterprise market going now, going forward? There's a lot of players. There's Jive, also a public company. Yammer, of course. There's Google Plus, they're sort of playing in the collaboration space. It's a lot of public companies.
Right.
So is there room for startups to come in, you think?
Well, I think, in our case, this category of enterprise social networking, that we effectively started it 4 years ago when we launched here in 2008. That's now sort of a more mature market. I mean, I think it's the case that, you want to launch your idea or product before there's a name for it, before there's an existing category.
No, that's true.
And so I wouldn't advise anyone to be creating a new enterprise social networking company. Same way I wouldn't advise them to create a new sort of social network. I mean, Facebook's won that space. So if you're going to do something, it needs to be highly differentiated from what's already out there. And it probably shouldn't be something that's so obvious that's going to be on the 1 or even 2 year product roadmaps of the existing players. I think that entrepreneurs need to go off and do something fundamentally new and different, invent new categories, rather than try to play at the margins of some of these existing categories.
So last question, after building and successfully selling a company, leading PayPal, what is the one piece of advice you would give an entrepreneur right now who's thinking of starting an enterprise or a consumer startup?
Well, I think, like I said, I've compared the internet to a forest, and it's not an early growth forest anymore. It's more like a more mature forest. We've got these giant, what I call the redwoods.
Yeah.
But the good news is the forest is expanding. The internet is overrunning traditional industries. Mark Andreessen's called it software's eating the world. I would advise an entrepreneur to go off and find one of those opportunities. Go disrupt an industry that has no tech incumbents. Now look, if you've got this fantastic idea for disrupting an existing sort of space that's dominated by a technology company, go for it. But I think that there's so many opportunities now to go off and bring the internet to a place that no one even thought it could play a few years ago.
Great, well thanks David, we really appreciate it.